Alright, so good afternoon, everybody. We are at the Dade Battlefield Historic State Park here in Bushnell, Florida. We are going to talk about the Civil War and some about the Seminole Wars that happened in 1861 to 1865 and before that with the Seminole Wars. We're going to start here at the entrance of the war. Now, this was the ultimatum in 1832 when Seminoles leaders signed the Treaty of Payne's Landing, which required the tribe to move to different lands in present-day Oklahoma. After the years of resistance, the U.S. Army gave the Seminoles ultimatum to leave by January 1st of 1836, and they would be defend their indigenous territories or die trying. And now, as we move forward to 1835, this is how the battle unfolded. And the fateful choice of George Washington Gardner, who was command after Dave's death, made the choice: surrender, retreat, or fight. Fearing repentant attacks, not wanting to leave his wounded men, he elected to build a barricade from fallen trees of defense, to hold the nightfall and escape under the darkness. And then when the battle finally subsided at the end, and the superior number and tactics of Seminoles slowly but surely overwhelmed the soldiers. By the time the night came, all but 3 of the soldiers had fallen, and the Seminoles achieved a resounding victory. And that's when the Second Seminole War began.
Okay.
Now it's going. Okay. So, from the Indian lifestyles of the Seminole Indians, they ended up wanting the land of the Spanish Florida, what was called Spanish Florida, and ended up going into the lifestyle and the agriculture of Florida and started out with their farming. And farming, they were growing corn and different crops, beans, rice, anything they could get their hands on as early settlers of Florida. Also, they were raising livestock like cows, chickens, and pigs, as well as going through. And this here is when the first Seminole War in 1818 started to take place, where we were at Fort Scott. Fort Scott now is present-day Georgia. As well as they took the battle, these were kind of the trailheads, and that's where they ended up driving out. In addition of the Seminoles with the U.S. Army, had different battle markers take place at that fort, as well as St. Mark's. And into the battle. This is the panhandle here of Florida, the state of Florida, as well as Bowlingstown and different battles around the state. Now, as we move into becoming a territory, finally, the state of Florida becoming a territory in 1821, as well as 5,000 Indians living in Florida territory were open to settlers. And now, and as they progressed and moved on, through the Seminole and the chiefs made several trips to St. Augustine, which is the oldest city in the state of Florida at this time, and will be, as well as going into the 1830s. This is where we go into the Second Seminole War, starting of the Second Seminole War by 1830, because it was the Moultrie Creek Treaty did not end the friction between them, and severe drought and food shortages were additionally runaway slaves. That's why the slaves had to go somewhere else, because there was a severe drought in the state of Florida, and food became very scarce and very light, and people were not able to find food. The Seminoles or the settlers were not able to find food that quickly, and because of the drought, had not had rain in several months. And so they had to move on to another piece of land where they were able to get food. Now, Chief Osceola was 1814 Creek War in Alabama. This is where they were migrating upper creeks and red sticks, and however unable to live under the terms of this treaty sought in Spanish Florida. The migration brought Osceola to Florida. That's where he steps in. That's where he starts to lead the Seminole tribe into Florida. However, the U.S. Army did not like that so much, since they became a state back in 1821. Now, when the Seminole chiefs planned to strike, this is where the battle took place. Seminoles planned to strike at the U.S. military, planned to kill the Indian agents at Fort King. Major Dade's march from Fort Brooke to Fort King afforded the Seminoles opportunity to attack and get revenge. Osceola's desire to revenge against the Indian agent Wiley Thompson, who had humiliated him. Osceola intended to kill the agent and led on an attack. However, Osceola's desire for revenge ultimately prevented him from being present at the attack on Dade. Now, Chief Osceola was not present here during the battle here at Fort Dade. On December 28th of 1835, military rode 30 miles from their final destination at Fort King. The open country gave troops a false sense of security, and the Indians, who had carefully watched their entire march for 5 days, took the troops by surprise. This here is a picture of what the battle scene kind of looked like as the U.S. Army penetrated in to take out the Seminole Indians to move them west. They wanted to push them westward, back out of the state of Florida, since the state of Florida, it is a state, and they wanted their own territory back. The United States was like, no, this is our land, this is our territory, get out. That's what the Battle of Dade started. And after the battle of 1836, this is what happened, and they were surprised at how many deaths and kills there were here at the Dade battlefield. And General Edmund Gaines arrived in New Orleans in 1836 on the 15th of January, where they organized a force of men and boarded a ship for Tampa Bay. A week later, its landing brought an end to the threats of an attack on Fort Brooke. He and his men were ready to complete the Dade expedition to Fort King. And now in Fort King, as the Second Seminole War raged on from 1835 to 1842. This is the killing of Major Dade and his company marked the beginning of costly the nation Indian Wars, the Second Seminole War. The war lasted almost 7 years and led lives of 1,500 soldiers and volunteers and unknown Indians, drained the federal treasury of $40 million, which was a lot back then in the 1830s. As the map, the seat of the war in Florida, here is where it was. These are where it stood, where campsites were. This went over here. This is present day around Jacksonville. Present day Jacksonville, we're in St. Augustine, is around this area. Moving further to the south, we're going into about the outside of Orlando, really outside of Orlando area, Camp Volusia. This is where Camp Volusia was. And in the Battle of Okeechobee, of course, right around, I would say, in the middle of it's in the middle of the state, but it's also in the middle of nowhere as well. Now, Battle of Okeechobee, this is one that was really an intense war, as well as the one we're at today in Dade's battlefield, State Park. After the aftermath of the war, this is when the 33rd Seminole War, and the final one, occurred in December of 1855. This is when Billy Bowlegs attacked the U.S. Civil War engineering crew. War broke out in spite of the Bowlegs had been severely provoked when a survey crew intentionally destroyed his prized banana plants. Indian resident was broken when Billy Bowlegs agreed to leave Florida in 1858. Bowlegs was the last prominent chief to leave with 164 of his people. 123 came voluntarily and 41 were captured. But it was by the time the Second Seminole War ended that 3,824 men had been shipped west. Agonizing struggle extended through the period of 23 years. It's idle to seek and correct the areas injustice of a past generation, and the tribulation and sorrow we can whilst remembering their sufferings and extreming their cruelties, shed a tear over their departed hopes. An example of what a united people can do in defense of their homes. By Boston Herald. Florida eventually became a state in 1845. Periodic small skirmishes occurred between the U.S. forces and Indians, but in general, early 1850s, there was little contact between Florida settlers and the Indians who stayed deep in the swamps. Yeah. So right here, this road that we're on, right here in this road, goes toward Fort King and Dade's men to their deaths. Fort Brooke of 1835 is the Tampa of today. Now Tampa would be going that direction, and 106 miles to the north would be that direction. Is Fort King, known as now town of Ocala. As we walk the trail of where Dade's men had fought during the Seminole Wars, 1820 to 1830, 1842. Now over here is where we can go ahead and it's a sable palm called the garbage palm, cabbage palm. Florida's state tree was of great importance to the early Floridians, and the trunk was used by the Indians and pioneers for log houses. Cut into small blocks, became durable to scrum brush. Leaves are still used today for the roofs of the Seminole Cheekies and can be woven into hats and baskets. The heart, called swamp cabbage, can be eaten raw or cooked. However, this kills the tree and should be discouraged. All the way up there. So this right here, this is where suddenly men reeled and fell to a deadly fire, poured upon them from behind trees and palmettos. Major Dade and Captain Fraser were killed nearby, and 3 of the 6 surviving officers were wounded. Those men remaining after the first onslaught sought cover from which they might return the fire. After several rounds of their cannon, the Indians withdrew a short distance. The soldiers hastily threw together a large redoubt of logs, cared for the wounded, and collected ammunition from the fallen. So right here was where there was a fire that had broken out. And the fire spread out all throughout this brush and killed Major Dade, who this state park is named after. And that's an old bridge right here that crossed over this river, and also a landmark just ahead.
Yeah, I was looking at that. Man, that's really nice.
Yeah. This is where the men marched, the U.S. Army and the Seminole Indians. There was a water that did flow through here a long time ago. However, it has drained out, and also the Civil War, or the drought as well. And this is a marker where one Lieutenant Mudge fell. Right here, and this is his monument here. This was during the fire. I think it just has on this side.
Yeah.
Bruce. Now, if we were still walking, this is actually, we're actually heading towards Ocala, Fort King. And this is where Captain
Fraser.
Yep, Captain Fraser. This is where he fell. Where he was, where he had been shot by an Indian, Seminole, and right through his heart, fell right there, killed him instantly.
I'd rather be killed instant than
staying there. Yeah.
lay there and suffer.
No kidding. See him in ambush. This is Major Dade. This is where Major Dade had fallen and again was shot with by a cannon and died instantly. This is what the park is named after, right here. So here we landed into looks like another fort. You can see the pillars off into the distance here. And this is where they build some of their, not their cabin, but their barricade. This looks like a barricade, part of a barricade to prevent the Seminole Indians coming into Fort Dade camp with the U.S. Army present. Of course, they would have men gunned off and preventing the Seminole Indians to enter the fort. Go ahead.
Yeah, we got the, what is this, the log
Breastwork. Yep.
This is a reconstruction of a small defense work began by the soldiers here during the lull in the battle. The Seminoles returned and finished the fight before it was completed. That's something.
Yeah.
So I guess this is what the reconstruction of.
This is the reconstruction of what the lull was.
Yeah.
And in the middle of the battle between the U.S. and the Seminoles,
right,
this was part of the barricade.
Yeah, that is neat.
What did I say?
Sure.
Welcome to the May Stringer. It is not a hyphenated name. It is actually named after the two main families that were responsible for the build of the home. And the other family was the Stringers. They were here till the 1960s.
Okay.
So the May Stringer comes from the John May family and the Stringer family. The John May family was responsible for the build of the home. Before I introduce them, I want to talk about Miss Virginia Jackson. She is in that blue matte frame photo right above your head there. She started the Hernando Historical Museum Association in the 1990s, which covers the May Stringer, the train depot, and the one-room schoolhouse. She bought the property from Dr. Hensley, who is photographed right below her there. He owned the house in the 70s and 80s when the house was actually run as an efficiency apartment. So they were renting out the rooms upstairs for some time.
Wow.
Richard Wiggins, I'm sorry?
Yeah.
Man,
That's awesome. Yeah.
Richard Wiggins is the first one who owned the property that the house is now sitting on. It's very likely that he would have had a cabin somewhere on the property. I'm not exactly sure where that would have been. But his property would have extended way past the courthouse. After he finished that grant, he sold the property to John May in 1855. John May was the first, the one that was going to start building the house. It's very likely that he may have either stayed in Wiggins' old cabin or had a small homestead while this house was being built. But unfortunately, John didn't get to enjoy the house for very long. He passed away after being here for about 2 years.
Oh, wow.
At the age of 25.
Oh.
So he had come down from Alabama with his wife Marina, his two daughters, and a group of servants with him. John May was a contractor. So the house was not built by him, it was built by the servants that he brought with the piano. This is a late 1800s organ.
Wow.
It actually has airbags on the inside, and that's the pedals would be how it would make its music. So our organist would pump their feet back and forth, which would inflate the airbags on the inside, and then that's how it produces its sound. This one came from Pennsylvania. We think that this may possibly could have been a church organ as well, because there is a mirror on the back there.
Yes.
The mirror would allow the organist to see the pulpit behind them for instruction, quite possibly. So we think that may have come from a church as well.
So now we're entering the parlor, on the parlor room.
Alright, so the May Stringer house is considered to be a Queen Anne style stick-on-stick Victorian painted lady. That is the style of the house. So a lot of the beautiful detailing that you would see as far as the curved walls, the ornate stair decorations, even the decorations out on the porch, and all of the carving that you would have seen that maybe likely drew you into the place is what makes it a Victorian painted lady. Now as we are coming into our parlor here, you cross through a set of pocket doors here. These pocket doors are a 6-panel door. Given the reason that they are, if you use a bit of imagination, you see a cross here
Yes.
and an open Bible down here at the bottom, which is giving them their name. The pocket doors actually go into the wall and lock into place in the middle. There are 4 sets of pocket doors downstairs. There's those 2 behind you, these, and then a couple across the hall. But a parlor would need these kind of doors because this is where your weddings would happen, where your funerals would happen, and your general purpose entertainment. So if we start with funerals, there wasn't funeral homes, there wasn't funeral parlors back then.
Right.
That all-important function took place in here. So what they would basically do is lay their deceased loved one out on a couch or in a cooling casket. If you wanted to rent a cooling casket from the undertaker, you could do that, which really kind of consisted of like a metal table with holes on it. And then they would probably had gone through a fire during the time that the Stringers had owned it. It had a bunch of smoke film on it originally. About a year ago, we had it refurbished to where they were able to pull all of that smoky film back off of it and bring these really beautiful colors back on this. So did a wonderful job restoring it.
That's very nice, yes.
But that was belonged to Mrs. Stringer. That Bible that's sitting in that chair there, that belonged to the Stringer family, and it was their rebirth, death, and baptism from 1874 all the way up into the early 1900s from the Stringer family. It is also said that there is a rose pressed into the pages by Mrs. Stringer that is still said to be there as well.
Wow.
Were they the last ones to own this? Or?
So Dr. Hensley, who was one of the last ones to own it, they were the eldest son, and he was an attorney and a judge in the area, and those were his law books.
That's law books. Wow.
Last but not least, we have this beautiful mantelpiece here. It is the only original mantelpiece left in the house here, and this was carved by John May himself. So he did a really beautiful job with all of this beautiful carving here.
Oh yeah,
that's just phenomenal.
Your mantelpiece was a conversation piece for your parlor, and he did such a fantastic job. Now, it's very likely that the lady of the house probably spent a good portion of her day making a nice, hot, nutritious meal for her family. There was always a fire stoked in the oven. There was always heat going. No air conditioning. Your cookhouse was always 20 feet from your main building for heat and fire. So those were the 2 main reasons. Our first cookhouse was out there where that gazebo is now. That one burned down in 1901. And then it was replaced to what is currently our gift shop now. And then the middle portion here of this kitchen area was placed within the mid-century 1900. Music carved onto them. So each cylinder would play 4 minutes, 1 song each.
Wow.
That is cool.
So what they would basically do with these is they would wind this up, and it has a spring on the inside, and as that spring releases that tension, it turns this little cylinder here. And then there's a little pin underneath here that plays the music. That vibration goes through the horn here and out through the front. There's no volume control, no speed control on it. It plays very loudly, fills the entire room with music. That's about 1908. Was the answer to the Amberola. And now, instead of having just a cylinder where it's only 4 minutes, you have now a song on each side. Of course, storage space.
Yes.
Quite a bit better, right?
Right.
And then this one here had volume control. It had speed control, so if you wanted to speed it up to sound like the Chipmunks, you could. If you wanted to slow it down to sound like Barry White, you could, right? Your volume control is right here. Now, these play very loudly, much like that one does, but your volume control here, all you had to do was close off these doors and it actually muffled the music down into the box to where you would have a more reasonable volume, I guess, for your music. But that was basically their upgrade and answer to the Amberola.
Dialers, their little lights, everything.
I see something like that on the Waltons, that TV series.
On what?
The Waltons.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry, but this is like my haven because I used to work in radio a long time ago.
Yeah.
But when I saw this, I'm like, hey, yeah, my studio didn't look like this, but it was up to technology. But this is, but I recognize a lot of the switchboards and board ops. And,
Well, every now and then we'll get a woman or a guy who work the switchboards.
okay.
And I sit them down and I say, okay, run through your paces. And they do it. And
Yeah.
it's amazing to watch them. It's
Yeah.
great. This is a switchboard for overseas and long distance.
Okay.
Now, the phone booth is all wood, and it was in the high school.
Well,
Second Hernando High School.
Oh,
First
wow.
one was a little tiny school,
Yeah.
and they built the second one. And this was in there. When they knocked that school down, this got salvaged,
okay.
which is good because
Yes.
it has everything in it that was always in it. The phone, the fan, the light, the whole 9 yards.
This was the last phone booth in Brooksville. Removed from two-story high school, which is torn down. First Baptist Church now sits on the site.
But every now and then we put a kid in here in the schools. When the schools come through, I say, make a phone call. They don't have a clue. They don't know how to use a rope. It has a lock. It
Okay.
has a door
Is there a
that
code?
opens, and it has a slot right here in the middle.
Is that savings?
Huh?
Savings? Like a savings box?
No, not really.
Uh,
It was used in November every year to 2 years.
For heat?
for heat?
Oh,
No.
I don't know.
Is that what?
It's a ballot box.
Oh, okay.
So it was very rural here. It still is very rural here. And people lived on, cattle farms, dairy farms, citrus groves, whatever. And they were a long way from the courthouse.
Yeah.
So it didn't make sense to them to drive all the way into the courthouse to drop a piece of paper in a box. So the supervisor of elections decided, well, we'll go to you. So they made these and they put them on horseback with riders, and out they went to all the local farms and everything and collected their ballots. The thing was, they had to put it in themselves in the slot.
Right.
Oh,
Couldn't be anybody else. They had to put their own ballot in. And then it was brought back to the courthouse, and the supervisor of elections would open the lock, take out the ballots, and put it in with all the others. Soldiers, but they're made out of lead. So we have to keep them in here so the kids don't touch them.
Yeah, lead,
Them in their mouth
yeah.
or anything. These are all just little things. The doll over there is very interesting. It's a two-headed doll, and it had a long dress on. And so if you wanted her to be awake, you put the dress on her and pulled it down so that only her face, her awake face. When you wanted her to go to sleep, you flipped the doll over, you pulled the dress up, and you put it, her arms through it in there. So you had a sleepy doll or an awake doll. Two dolls in one.
Yes.
And these are all just little toys and stuff. The dollhouse, you should go over and look at that. This was made by a grandfather for his grandchildren and children.
It's
An
amazing.
An exact replica of his own house that he also built. And he put everything in it. All the furniture, everything. If he
nice.
couldn't find it, he made it.
Oh my.
And it's so, there's a violin in this room. There's, the canopy bed is beautiful. The staircase goes all the way through up to the top. And then the bathroom even has a roll of toilet paper in it.
What?
Oh, gosh.
Oh wow.
That is amazing.
Yep. Isn't that cute?
Yes.
I love
Beautiful.
it. It is.
Such handiwork.
Very much so.
Imagine how long it took to make that. Because he hand tooled everything.
Oh my goodness.
That would be.
A lot long. What, years? Years? Like many years? I'd say that's.
For the bugs. And in
Yeah.
the wintertime, they would put drapes like this. So that if it got cold, they could
Yeah.
put the drapes
Yeah,
around.
put it with drapes.
Most of the time, they just use quilts. There's lots of handmade quilts here. These were all donated. But they would use quilts. But if it was really cold, they would take down, the canopy would be up there. They would just pull it down with
Right.
the drapes to keep warm.
Yeah.
Now over here, see, here's more quilts here.
Oh wow.
These are pantaloons, long underwear for men and women.
What?
And they were made out
Really?
of cotton. Yeah, they were made out of cotton.
For
And
guys.
they would wear this under their clothes because they absorbed sweat
Oh.
and they helped with the evaporation to keep you cool. And men wore dark woolen suits
Yeah.
those days, even in the summer.
Mm.
So unless they were really smart and got seersucker suits, then
Yeah.
But most of them wore dark suits. And the women had the big dresses.
You're
I had
reading
my
the.
chair, my books, my music. It would be great.
Oh, wow.
Now that
Yeah,
there is a portrait of the house before they did it in the painted lady colors. Okay.
Okay.
When you go outside and you look, there's
Yeah.
3 colors of the house. It's maroon, green, and gray.
Right.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I
Those
did
are the
notice
3
that.
colors. Here it's all white.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you see the triangle at the top?
Uh huh.
That's the cupola. Or the cupola.
Cupola. Okay.
The cupola.
Cupola.
And it's 4 triangles. One on, it's like a square,
Uh huh.
and each one has these triangular things with windows. And there it is, right there.
Oh.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, but
A cupola.
If you step back, you can see the window. Now, you see the cedar shingles,
Yes.
or the shakes.
Yeah.
right.
That's the original roof.
Oh, wow.
And when when the place was being renovated to become the museum, the county came in to do an inspection, and they told them they had to remove the roof and put a new roof. And the association went, that ain't
cover it.
happening. So, because they had already been entered into the National Register of Historic Places, and you cannot alter the exterior of a building when you're in the registry, otherwise you lose your designation.
Yeah.
So they came to a compromise and they put a metal roof over the original roof. So the original roof is here. So what we
Awesome.
did, we didn't fill any of this in or cover it in. We left it open so everybody could see what the original roof looked like.
All right.
And it's all cedar. It's beautiful. What do you think the roof is made out of?
It's moth. Is that moth? Moths or no? That's. Not sure.
Feel it. Yeah, it's sharp.
Shells.
Huh?
Shells.
No. It's made out of the petals of pine cones.
Okay. Wow.
I went into an antique.
Man, that is.
I went into a antique store in Micanopy. You ever hear of Micanopy?
Yeah. That,
It's a
oh,
little
yeah.
ta-
That,
a little town
right
by
outside of Gainesville.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I go up there a lot, and
So
there's
do I.
a whole bunch of antique stores there. There's one called Dakota Mercantile, which has now closed.
Yeah.
But she used to sell some really neat things. So she had a little house. It was about this big, $20, and it had a roof made with this, but part of it was missing. So I said to her, "Hey, how much discount are you going to give me? Because half the roof, it wasn't half, it was like maybe a piece this big. The roof is missing." So she goes, "Okay, $10." So it brought it down to $10. I brought it home. I went out in my yard. I found a beautiful pine cone. I clipped it, I glued them on. You would never know that it was ever gone.
Very many months from the time that he actually moved in here to when he passed away. So the majority of Victorian doctors typically would go out and see their patients. That was more commonplace rather than being seen here. That's not to say that there weren't patients seen here, because if there was probably a few. What the intention was that he was wanting to run his medical practice out of his home. So where you guys would have come in, he would have brought his patients down the hall here, saw them for whatever procedures they would have had here, and then exited out the door. There is a brass plaque up there at the top of the door there for the exit door for that purpose.
Oh, wow.
Now, Dr. Stringer was educated in Tampa for his medical degree, and then he also served in the Civil War. He was a field surgeon for the Civil War. This is the gentleman we're talking about right here. This is Dr. Sheldon Stringer, Sr. here.
Oh, wow.
After the war, he came back to Brooksville, where he and his son, Dr. Sheldon Stringer Jr., who is photographed here, they served out as the primary doctors for the area for about 20 to 30 years. If you are interested in what Dr. Stringer was charging for his prices, we have his price list actually. In the 1850s, Dr. Sheldon Stringer, his fees for ordinary prescriptions were $1. Extraordinary prescriptions were $2. Visits in town to 9 p.m. was $1.50. For visits in town after 9 p.m. was $3. For visits in town to the country during the daylight was $1 per mile. At night it was $1.50 per mile. If it was raining, he charged $2 per mile. If the call came after the doctor had retired for the evening, that was $2.50 per mile. For giving an opinion on a Negro offered for sale, that was $10. Removing cataracts was $5 to $50, I guess, depending on your complexity there. Tonsillectomies were $5 to $10. Amputating your leg was $60. Amputating your hip was $100. Simple obstetric cases, white or slave, was $20. And treatment for yellow fever, all of those charges doubled.
Oh,
so this was his price list.
Wow.
Isn't that neat?
Yes.
So as far as this medical case here, everything in this section here is all veterinary. That's all for animals.
Okay.
And up to code by putting in a bathroom. We put the bathroom in on that side there and close this area here, and then voila. Now we have a central room here. These uniforms used to be in the gift shop, but we realized probably about 7 or 8 years ago that the sun was starting to fade the uniforms here because they were in the gift shop, which has all the windows around it.
Yeah.
So we wanted to bring them in here to preserve them and protect them a little bit better. All of these uniforms here, the people that are photographed in front of them are the people that wore the uniforms. So this is World War I here. These are World War II. We've got Korea, Vietnam on the top shelf here. We have Desert Storm here. We have Mrs. McKenna. Mrs. McKenna was a full-blown colonel back in the Korean wartime. And that was quite unheard of for a woman to be that high of rank back in that time frame. So we're very happy to have that. This is an Eisenhower jacket. The Eisenhower jacket was awarded to women of exemplary war service, so a lot of field nurses got those. Our oldest are a musket barrel. This is one of the earliest ones that were found in Hernando County. It has a bit of a curve in it. The gentleman that donated it was said to have used it as a wheelbarrow axle for a while.